No.
And then, was it Return of the Jedi? Like the first Disney one they made?
No.
Both on the list.
That's impossible! Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tank Talks. My name's Keith.
And I'm Brandon.
Brandon, let me tell you something. The other day, I was walking down the street in the big city, and I stepped on something squishy. Was it dog poo-poo? Was it a dead bird? No, it was a rotten tomato.
I thought you were going to tell me a real story. I was going to be like, oh man, what happened when you were walking down the
No,
road?
it was a fake story. It was a fake story to segue into what we'll be talking about today, and that is the perceived, maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't, problem with rotten tomatoes.
So this has been something that we've talked about for a while. I think that I've always had a love-hate relationship with Rotten Tomatoes.
It should be clear that you know we're referring to the website that helps you, determine whether a movie is good or bad, not the actual fruit, Rotten Tomato.
So today what we're going to do is I'm going to point out some of what I perceive to be flaws, and we will give Keith a rebuttal to try to defend Rotten Tomatoes. Kind of a little backstory. This all kind of came about when I went and watched Holmes and Watson, and a movie that people were saying were so bad that people were storming out and demanding their money. People were falling asleep during the movie. Just, they made it to be the worst movie ever. Me and my fiance went and watched it, and it wasn't the greatest Will Ferrell movie, but I laughed at it. Jordan typically doesn't laugh at movies. She laughed at it. The theater was probably about fourth of the way full.
Sure.
Everyone in there was laughing during jokes, and I walked out of there thinking that I felt the movie was better than Talladega Nights and better than the other guys.
Okay.
And if I didn't know and someone said to me, hey, which one of his movies is considered something so bad people are walking out of, I would not put it there. So afterwards I started doing some research, and I started finding out what I believed were some flaws with Rotten Tomatoes. Now, a disclaimer, I'm not saying Rotten Tomatoes is never right or that you should not trust them. I think they do offer a lot of information.
Sure.
I think that it is cool that you can gauge how audience may love something, critics may hate something, or vice versa. You can also, with all of the reviews, you can click on that critic's review and find out, like long form, what they wrote about it.
Sure.
The problem is that a lot of people do not take that extra step. And I have friends that I have said before, hey, you should watch that movie, and in front of me they pulled it up on their phone and said, nah, this got 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a bad movie.
Yeah, that's who we're attacking today. And it should be made clear that I'm not really a Rotten Tomatoes sheep. I usually check it out, and if it's low enough, I tend to not. I probably feel like I don't need to go see that movie. But if it's something that I do want to see or thought I wanted to see it, Rotten Tomatoes isn't going to stop me one way or another. So I'm not. I'm just playing the defense for Rotten Tomatoes, despite not quite.
We couldn't get the CEO here, so Mr. Tomato could not be here.
Yeah, Mr. Tomato
or Mr. Fandango, because they own them. But that's not one of the things I touch on. But yes, Fandango does own Rotten Tomatoes. Number one, who are the critics that are writing these things? What have they said before? Whenever you see a critic, you can see, oh, that person gave it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Or they may go in and say, this movie was uninspired, it wasn't funny, but you don't know their history. Are they someone who loves comedy? Do they have a history of loving that actor and they don't like this movie? Or secondly, it could be shock value. Like if you're someone that goes out there and you're saying something different, you can get a lot of people to jump on. For instance, Holmes and Watson's. If a review just says, oh man, this movie wasn't good, people probably won't read that review. But if you say, hey, let me tell you why people are storming out of the theater, people are going to click on that.
Yeah.
And kind of just an example of that, I walked out of that movie telling Jordan that when it comes to critics, you need to know, okay, what do these people like? For instance, with a Will Ferrell movie, I'm a huge fan of Will Ferrell. My mom likes him but doesn't like all of his movies. So if she walked out telling you she didn't like a Will Ferrell movie, that doesn't hold as much weight as someone like me who, like that movie, I love Will Ferrell. I love John C. Reilly. So if I walked out saying that movie is garbage, that's a huge, red flag to people about watching that movie because they know how much I love both of them. So Keith, do you have a rebuttal for that.
Using the Holmes and Watson as a test case, my challenge there would be, I get that you're not going to know, who all the reviewers are, but are we going to assume that none of the, enough of them have the incorrect perspective on the movie that it would lower the score so much that enough of these critics, shouldn't have been reviewing this movie that it skewed the score all the way down to 0? I don't think that's a powerful argument by itself to just say, well, you don't know who watched this movie. Because typically someone who hates a Will Ferrell movie is likely not going to review a Will Ferrell movie. I feel like critics typically will watch things that they at least have some sort of hope that they're going to enjoy. Kind of like with video games. Like, I'm not going to play a game I hate to review it. And I don't think that's how the review system works in that arena either. So I don't know if that is an argument by itself as to devalue Rotten Tomatoes just yet.
Now, I would point out how many people can keep on knocking Adam Sandler movies without even watching the movies.
Really?
So I will
point
that out. There's a good bit of people who that's a popular thing. I'm not saying the movies don't deserve it, but there are critics who have just said, hey, I've just watched, just seeing on paper, don't go watch this, you don't even need to watch the movie.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not cool.
But I will say that is true. And like I said, I don't think that that's a movie that it's not like, oh, this should be 100%. Why is it 0%?
Sure.
So I believe that does have some validity. Secondly, the whole thumbs up, thumbs down thing. It doesn't give you the whole picture. Like if someone just said, oh, how was that movie? And I say, oh, that's not me saying, oh, was it good or bad? Or how close is it to being good or bad? It's not like, now it's more if I went, okay, that's a thumbs up that tells you something, not just. Some examples is when using Holmes and Watson. I was reading reviews where they talked about how, man, they couldn't capture the magic of that wonderful movie Step Brothers, and how that changed the game from comedies and all. But if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, Step Brothers has 55%, so it's rotten. Same with Adam Sandler. If you read reviews, critics keep going saying, man, back in his golden days when he had The Water Boy, man, that was when he was clever. That movie has a 35%.
Yeah.
So it's people that are quoting movies saying, oh, those movies are so good. But by Rotten Tomatoes standards, those movies, they're saying they're not even good. So the whole thumbs up, thumbs down, you're kind of contradicting yourself when you're saying, man, this isn't as good as that movie that I loved, but that also no one else loved.
Yeah. Also, that's definitely true. I didn't know that was the case with those past movies. I don't think I'm not big into comedies so much when it comes to movies, so I don't consider Step Brothers a masterpiece. I get it, it's funny, but I don't know if I'd call it a masterpiece. But still, yeah, I think outside of that, I feel like I'm okay with the system of the thumbs up and thumbs down, because a lot of times if I'm asking people, hey, should I see this movie? I don't really care for a dissertation, I don't need well, you might enjoy this part, but you might not like this part, and this part really comes really all I'm looking for is a yes or no. But yeah, if I think it would definitely be a problem if Rotten Tomatoes is okay, one critic gets to review this movie, they give it a thumbs down or a thumbs up, it's either rotten or it's fresh. But with Rotten Tomatoes, 100,000 critics could review it, and then you get an average of how all those people felt. You get an average of thumbs ups to thumbs downs. Essentially, that's how Rotten Tomatoes works, is that if a critic thinks it's fresh, if it's good, it goes towards that percentage of people thinking it's good, and if they don't think it's good, it doesn't. So that gives you your percentage. So if a score has 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means that 60% of the critics who reviewed it said, yeah, this is a pretty good movie. They at least said it was pretty good.
Yes.
So I'm okay with that on paper. It doesn't seem like it works out all the time, but I'm definitely okay with that sort of system on paper, averaging out a large amount of reviews like that. Now, if it's 20 reviews, then you need to start. I think the threshold is 40. It's either 40 or 75 reviews it takes for them to actually get a Rotten Tomatoes score. So yeah, once you get under that, I'm not sold. But on paper, 75 reviews, average those out. I'm close to okay with it.
So at this point, I was I was starting to feel good about my argument.
Yeah.
And I started following some other little rabbit trails, but they just weren't giving me what I wanted. And I was like, let me go to the true source. Let me go to Rotten Tomatoes' list of top 100 movies ever. And they do this with every genre. So you can look at Rotten Tomatoes' top 100 comedy movies, horror, but I wanted top 100 movies of all time.
Brandon, you hit us with the most southern pronunciation of horror ever.
Horror.
Go to comedy videos, horror films.
So I Googled best movies ever, and the list popped up. But I'm not just going to trust Google, because I'm not even going to put anything. So I started going through list after list and saying, do these movies appear on there?
If you would tell me, what was the best movie ever according to Google?
Huh?
Do you remember what the best movie ever?
It was more of it just popped up a list of like 18 movies. Okay. Like it didn't say definitively this is the best movie.
These are the top ones.
A lot of the ones I looked up, they were saying that The Godfather, or Godfather, I believe 2 or 3, was one of the top ones. Because I looked at about 10 different lists to make sure that these were on there. Because I'm not just going to look at Google and say, oh, well, it said E.T. is the best one. I was like, no, I want to see if these people have it on there.
Okay.
So once I came up with a list, and it was 3, 5, so it's about 9 movies that I kept on seeing, and I was like, all right, let me find out where they're ranked on there. First, I went to Pulp Fiction. I was like, where's this top 100 films? Not in the list.
Really? Not even the top 100?
No.
Wow.
Went to Jaws. Not on the list.
What's Jaws is one of the best movies ever?
It's ranked as one of the top ones.
Would not have expected that.
Went to Lord of the Rings to see if I can find any of the Lord of the Rings.
Also ranked?
None of them in the top 100.
But they're some of the best movies?
Stay with me. Yes, sir.
I love Lord of the Rings.
Gone with the Wind. A lot of people would consider that to be the best one.
Sure.
Because it stood the test of time. People are like, man, that movie's been around for, 70, 68, long time. Not on the list.
Wow.
Good, Bad, and Ugly, not on the list.
You're
Wonderful
saying not
Life,
on the Rotten Tomatoes list.
not on the Rotten Tomato top 100. Wonderful Life, not on the list. Shining, not on the list. Star Wars, 1 through 3, people don't really care for them. Probably not going to be on the list. A New Hope, no. Empire Strikes Back, no. Return of the Jedi, not top 100.
Wow, that's crazy.
Now, Keith, one of your personal favorites, Shawshank Redemption.
My
you want to
favorite
guess
movie.
Where that is on their top 100 list?
Close to the bottom?
Not on the list at all.
Not on the list?
Now,
Shawshank Redemption?
let's point out some of the movies that are on the list.
Oh boy.
Okay?
This right now is damning evidence already.
The Last Jedi is on that list.
No!
So if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, the best Star Wars films by a long shot are Last Jedi, and then was it Return of the Jedi? Like the first Disney one they made?
No!
Both on the list.
That's impossible!
And keep in mind, they're top 100. So these movies I'm naming are considered to be better than all those other movies. Finding Dory. Rotten Tomatoes, Finding Dory beats your Shawshank Redemption. All the Lord of the Rings.
No.
Wonder Woman. Guess where that's ranked on the list?
My whole world.
11th greatest movie of all time.
My whole
Wonder
world.
Woman. Keith, take a wild guess what, according to Rotten Tomatoes, is the greatest movie ever made.
I don't know. Toy Story?
The Black Panther.
No!
So let me paint a picture of if you were someone
the best movie ever
who are trusting Rotten Tomatoes for all of your information. If you walked to that person and said Pulp Fiction's a good movie, they're gonna say, you think that's the greatest movie?
It's not Black Panther.
You think Shawshank Redemption, Finding Dory is like, they would tell you Shawshank Redemption, that ain't no Finding Dory.
Oh, brother.
So that's the problems when you follow Rotten Tomatoes and says they tell me the truth. You would go on that list and you would be someone that walks around saying Wonder Woman, 11th greatest movie ever. Black Panther. And don't get me wrong, I watched Black Panther.
It's good.
I think it's a really good film. I don't even think it's the greatest Marvel film. I think it's top 5 Marvel film, perhaps. Wonder Woman. I don't think Wonder Woman was better than The Dark Knight. Dark Knight was ranked 95th on the whole list. So that was on the list, but 95th, barely above Finding Dory. So that is my evidence as to if you follow Rotten Tomatoes without looking at the reviews, Rotten Tomatoes is going to tell you that the greatest movie of all time. And all those other movies, Pulp Fiction, Jaws, any other Star Wars, Wonderful Life, Shawshank Redemption, none of those movies are even top 100.
Brandon, I now see... Shawshank Redemption is the #1 movie on the IMDb top 200 movies. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. That is not...
Now, Rotten Tomatoes, they have a 92% rating. I will say it's below the new Bumblebee movie that came out. It's below the new Into the Spider-Verse. So you're saying
the top 100 they all have like above 92?
It's just how they configure it with the different critics that have ranked it, and that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, what I'm saying... Yeah, okay. When you Brandon spent a lot of time preparing me for this video, saying like, do your research or whatever. And he was like, I've got a pipe bomb that I'm going to drop on you when it comes to the end. Like, my third point is it's been successful. So, Brandon, I don't know if I can ever look at Rotten Tomatoes again after this.
So, like I'm saying, if you were just if someone went on Rotten Tomatoes, and if you Google right now, top 100 movies, Rotten Tomatoes, and you click all time, that's what you're gonna find.
Wow.
Now, if you go on maybe best dramas, maybe Shawshank Redemption, maybe they threw them a bone and they gave them top 80. Maybe they're in the top 50 of greatest drama movies.
So either the system is broken or there's a very... I'm not getting political, but it seems like there might be a rather leftist agenda going on in the Rotten Tomatoes top 100. Does that... I mean, I'm not trying to say Black Panther's not one of the best movies. I am. It's not one of the top 100 movies ever made. I don't think it is. And that's not because I'm racist. That's just because I don't think it's that good.
Now, the second greatest movie ever of all time was Wizard of Oz. So, it goes to show you that Rotten Tomatoes is not always right. It's not always wrong. But there's just a problem where, okay, Wizard of Oz is on there. Citizen Kane is on there. But Shawshank Redemption, none of the Lord of the Rings, Pulp Fiction, none of those are even top. Like, you would be upset if someone said Shawshank Redemption was the 40th best movie. Like, I saw a list where it said that Pulp Fiction was the 40th greatest movie, and I was like, that movie is like has a huge impact on like pop. Like, it's very recognized. I was like, I don't know if even 40 is like kind of weird to me.
This whole video is coming from the perspective of two non-movie critics, but it is hard to argue with that kind of information that these other movies have made it to the top 10 of most lists, but it does not on the Rotten Tomato top 100. You take this information and do with it what you please. I'm sure I'll still be checking out Rotten Tomatoes when movies first come out just to see what the general consensus is, but not as a way to
check out what Fandango wants you to watch in theaters.
But Brandon, we're almost about to forget about it, but after all that information, I need a drink. Tank, drink! And luckily, since I'm on my diet, this is something I can drink.
Our Tank Drink this week is brought to you by Coke Zero Cherry.
Yep. Cherry Coke Zero. Something simple, something easy, something that'll go down nice and smooth.
The good folks at the Cherry Factory called up Coca-Cola and said, bring us some of that.
What? You didn't want to finish that sentence before you drank?
Keith, Coke Zero Cherry is so good that you can't finish your sentences for you. Mm-hmm. That's the tagline, baby.
Yeah, Cherry Coke Zero is pretty dang good. You're not wrong about that. No calories. All that sweet, tasty aspartame. Sacrifice your brain for your body, folks.
They used to it would make me upset because the cherries used to have a hole in it. And I know they were trying to say, oh, this has zero stuff in it. But it made me feel like they were making the way they got the drink to be zero sugar and calories was they were using cherries with whole, like, that's where the sugar comes from, is the cherry.
The cherry pit.
We got a hole punch with the cherry, we can help people.
Alright, everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. Check out the check out the tomato meter on this episode. Hopefully the audience score is a little higher than the critic score. We will see you in the next one. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and do not forget that we
love you very much.
Ooh.